let's see how you can set up the backup for your server. To log into your Hetzner server, whether it's a dedicated server or a cloud server, it's just the same process. As long as the server is already set up and running, the process is just the same. So I'm just going to copy the IP address for my cloud server, SSH, and the user will be root, unless you have a different user, and then the IP, Control-Shift-V. So I'll enter. You need to accept this, so just type yes. I will enter the password, Control-Shift-V to paste, enter. Okay, there I'm logged into the server. I've already prepared the commands you're going to need for the backup. So I'll explain it in a moment. But most importantly, you need to figure out where the files for your applications are. Depending on how you install them, they may be in a different location. They might be under home directory. So you can look under home directory. Probably they're somewhere there. Or usually you might also find them under var, depending on the type of server you're using, var www. They could be somewhere here. So this is for you to find out where they are, because this is important. We are going to need the directory for where the files are. And as well, for the backup, for the database backup, you're also going to need to find out the database details, like the database name, the database user, and the database password, because you're going to back that up as well. There's no point in backing up the server files if you don't have the database. So let's come back here, and I want to explain this. So the first part here is just to make your work easy. It will create a file called that. And then in that file, we're going to have a shell script, and this shell script is going to do everything we need to do. Okay. So the first part, just configuration here. This will make your work easy. So the site directory, this is where the site files are. This is what I'm talking about. You need to find out where your files are. So the files for Laravel and for React, you need to find the folder where they are. And in my case, let me copy this. I want to edit it. So it goes from there all the way up to there. Control C, Control N. I need a new place where I can edit this and paste it into the terminal. So site directory, this is a directory for where the files are. So if I come back to my server, for me, my files are located under, so I can just look for them, ls/home. ls will list items in there. So ls/home, and they're in this user. And here they're inside of web. And here they're inside of a domain, a sample domain that I set up here. And then inside there, they're inside of the public HTML. So if I was to do an ls for this, it's going to show me there are two folders there. This is just a sample. The website is not accessible, but in here, there is Laravel files. And here, there are React files. This is the folder I want to back up, the folder with my website files. Usually, you'll find they're probably in the same directory, or they're all inside of this directory. But either way, it's not a problem. I'm just going to use this as the example. So I'm going to copy this full path. So it's up to you to find out where your website files are located. And then come back here, and we're going to replace the value for site directory. So site directory, I will put it inside there. And then the backup directory, So this is the directory where you want the backup files to be. In my case, I'm just going to put them inside of /backups. So if the directory doesn't exist, the script is going to create it. So backup directory, that will be the backup directory. Right now, if I come here and I do ls to list /backups, you'll see it does not exist, but the script is going to create it. And then the database user. So for the database user, you need to find out the database for your Laravel. In my case, to find this out, since I already know this directory and I know that my Laravel is inside there, I can find the database details for my Laravel. So I can do cat. Cat will just read the file. It will show me an output of the file. So Control-Shift-V. And in Laravel, usually you'll find these details in the .env file. .env. So if I look inside that, no such file or directory. Oh yeah, it's inside of this. Okay, remember there, Laravel is installed there. So it's inside of backend .env. Right. So if I look inside there, I will find all the details for my installation. So the database details are here. This is what I need. So I can just copy that, bring it back here to Visual Studio Code. I'll just paste it there to make my work easy. So I can copy the first item I need. Backup directory is that. Database user. So my database user is that. Username is that. So I'm going to replace it with this. And then the database password. Database password is that. Copy. I'm going to replace with that. Database name, the database that we want to back up is that. Copy. Your database. Control-V. And then the timestamp, this will be generated automatically. And then the backup file will also be generated automatically. The name, will be generated automatically based on the timestamp. So you can run multiple backups and they will all have the timestamp for when the backup was taken. So create a backup directory if it does not exist. So the backup directory, we've defined it up here, the backup directory as /backups. If it does not exist, like in my case, it does not exist, it will be created using this command. Make directory -p simply ensures that any directory that doesn't exist will be created. And then the first step is to back up the database. So it's just going to echo the database is starting. This is like an output that will be shown on the command line, letting you know that the database update is starting up. So this is a command that will set up the database backup. So what this does, MySQL dump is going to back up a database for this user, and the user for the DB user is defined up here. So make sure these database details are accurate. And then -p, this is going to be the password for the user up there. And then the database name, this is the database that you want to back up. Even that as well has been defined up there. And once that is done, it's going to get compressed and stored in this directory. So remember, the site directory was defined up there. This is a location where your files for your website are located. And then step 1, we've backed up the database. Step 2, we're going to create a compressed archive file, and that is a file for all our website files. So step 2 is going to compress it. So this is using tar to compress, and it's going to backup. It's going to keep it in the backup directory, and it will call it the backup file. So the backup file is generated based on that. You can call it something different, but just leave it like that. The name will be generated with a timestamp. And then this is going to backup these directories inside of your website directory. So if you want to backup everything in there, you can actually just comment out this. So to comment out, just add the hash in front of that line. So this is one line. This is one line on a Linux bash shell, and you can run multiple lines like this. You can separate multiple lines for readability by adding the backslash, I mean. So if you just want to backup everything that is included inside of, where is it, site directory. Site directory is a site with everything. So I'm just going to copy this. I don't know if I added it here. I didn't add it here, but I can add it because I saw it was a much easier way to back up everything. So let me add it here. I will share this with you once I'm done. So here as well, instead of using this, I'm just going to comment that. Now, instead, I will use this. Now, this makes things easier because it's just going to back up everything inside of the site directory. So remember, there's a dot there. This is important. The dot is going to ensure that everything inside of this directory is backed up, and this directory is defined up here as the directory for where your files are. So let me copy that, and here where I'm editing this, I will add it there. And that's basically it. The first step, we backed up the database. The second step, we backed up the files, and we're going to use that. And now cleanup, you can remove the database that was backed up after the archive has been created, and the archive will be stored in the backup directory. So in my case, I've defined the backup directory as /backups. And then the last step, we are going to get the full name of the backup that has been created, and then we can use that to pull things from. We're going to use that to bring it to our local computer. So for me, I'm sure that my details are correct. So let me create this file. It goes all the way up to end of file. I'll do Shift Z Q to get out of that, Control L, and I'll do Control Shift V to paste, and then I'll enter. And now if I was to look inside of that file, the file that has been created is this. So I can look inside of it. I'll use cat. So I can do cat, Control Shift C, Control Shift V to copy and paste, enter. And now that is our bash file. You see, that's our backup file, but right now it's not executable. So we need to make it executable so that we can run it. And to do that, the command, I added it here for you. So make the above script executable. So I'll use chmod +X will make it executable, and then we can run it. Okay, you just run it by calling the file name. So Control Shift V to paste, and this is going to make it executable. And then now we can run it. to create our backup. Remember, right now the backup doesn't exist, but we can run it by doing that's going to create a backup for all our files and our database. So if I run it, hopefully no errors. And since it doesn't have a lot of files, the backup finished quickly. So backup created at that. Okay, so take a note of this, because this is what we're going to pull into our computer. So I'm going to copy, and I can come to my local computer. So I need to pull in this file into my downloads directory. And I'm also doing this tutorial on Linux. That means I can use rsync, and rsync is the best solution for this. So I have added the command there, and this is a user for your server, probably root. I'm logged in as root, so it will be root. Remote host, this is the IP of your server, and this is the location for the download file. And that is a file that you've been told as the last item here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and edit it. Copy. Let me bring it here. Control V, rsync. So the only thing I need to change here is my username for my server is root, and then the remote host, this is the IP for my server. Control V, and then this is the item that I want to download, and I'll copy this. I'm being told this is a backup that was created, so let me download it. And I'm going to remove that and replace it with my backup. Replace it with my backup file. And then this is where I want it on my local computer. So usually what you can do is you can cd into the location for where you want to add it, and then just add a dot. You can also just replace this. Since I'm on Linux, I know I have downloads folder. Okay, so I can bring it into the downloads folder. If you want it inside of another directory, like let me add it inside of a directory called test. So that directory does not exist, so you have to create it first. So if I copy this and run it, so run this on your local computer, of course. Control Shift V, run it on the local computer, enter, and be ready with your user password for your server, because you need to log in. Control Shift V to paste, enter, and now it's downloading the backup. There we go. It's complete. The download is complete. Now, if I go into my local folder, and this is where I selected for the download to be stored. So I'm just going to extract it to look at it. Extract. And you'll see it has come with the two files which were in there. And if we go inside of backend, we can see that our database is also inside there. This is how you can back up everything. And most importantly, make sure you have the correct details for your database, because if any detail such as a username is wrong, the backup will not succeed. Okay, I hope this is going to help you to grab all the download files and bring them to your local computer.